Like I said, when Clair Obscur Expedition 33 comes out, we will be checking out and playing this game. And so IGN has the final preview. So I'm going to watch IGN, this IGN video, check out what they're thinking of with this final preview, and seeing this last bit of gameplay before the game comes out in 10 days. Let's jump into this video.
Years ago, a mentor told me that the most important part of any story is surprise. A few years later, a writer I deeply respect wrote that perhaps the difference between good and great writing is technique, though even that was probably not as important as conviction.
And that's a good quote, because it does take a lot to be a good writer. It does, because you have to be able to create a story with just words and be able to make your reader, or whoever's, or however the story is being told, be able to sink their teeth in and immerse themselves into the story that you're telling. And a lot of that comes with how you go about writing this story, how you go about telling this story in a way that comes off natural, because that's the key. The writing has to come off natural. And what I mean by that is that when your characters interact with one another, it has to come off like the reader is in the room with these people in this story. When writing doesn't even come off as realistic, it can break the immersion of the story that you were trying to tell. And that's why that's one of the reasons why writing can be hard, is because you have to have the ability to tell a story in a way where it comes off natural, like what your reader is reading, or what is your audience is watching, is able to be immersed in. And the more natural the writing feels, the more immersed the viewer or the reader will feel.
But what keeps us invested in a story is curiosity, the gap between what we know and what we need to know, the questions that drive us. Combine all three and you tend to create something special. Each and every one of us has played a game that grabbed us from the jump, that connected with us in some unexpected way, a game that surprised us, whose belief in itself was obvious from the first frame, that made us want to explore. I have played a lot of video games, friends, and that feeling is increasingly rare for me, especially in the AAA space. So when I tell you that Clair Obscur Expedition 33 grabbed me by the throat from the jump and didn't let go for a single second of the 3.5-hour demo I played twice, believe me when I tell you, that's some powerful magic.
Expeditioners.
I know what he's saying. That feeling is rare. It is very rare when I'll put it this way. I feel every bit of that last sentence that he said, because it is not very often that I just get, like I said when I was talking about writing, when I get just captured into a story and I sink my teeth into it, and I just don't want to let go of it. I want to keep going and going and going and going into the story to see where it goes. And yeah, it's very hard for me to be able to remember the last time that I felt that way about a story that I was either reading, watching, or playing in the case of a video game. And when I think about it right now, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's stories out there that I've been playing and reading and watching that I find interesting, and I just casually take it in. But it is not very often I find myself playing a story because I can't stop playing it, because I'm that sucked into it. And the last game that came close to getting me like that was Final Fantasy 16. Don't get me wrong, there were Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I was interested in those stories, but I was more so interested in those because of the exploration, the gameplay. The story was good. I'm not saying the story was bad. The story was good. But there were other reasons why I was interested in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Part of that was probably also nostalgia. But like I said, the last time a game got me or came close to making me feel that way with its story was Final Fantasy 16. Last time before that, I barely even remember. I think I would have to probably sit down and like look for my games to be able to try to remember.
We do not take for granted that you dedicate your final year of life to keeping hope alive for all of Lumiere.
If you're unfamiliar, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has a pretty fascinating setup. See, there's this being called the Paintress, and every year she paints a new number. When she does, every person of that age dies. Poof, vanishes, turns to dust. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. And the thing is, she's counting down. Every year, the people dying get younger. So every year, the people of Lumiere send a volunteer expedition of people with 1 year left to live on a desperate, impossible, doomed mission to go to the continent across the sea and kill the Paintress, so she can never paint death again.
You battle the Paintress. Know that Lumiere fights with you.
You'll find journals from Expedition 84, so if you can do the math in your head, you'll get how desperate this whole thing is and how young, but still older than the average RPG protagonist, your characters are.
Learn from the ones who came before.
And lay the trail for the ones who come after.
Things get weirder once your crew lands on the continent. They almost immediately run into an old man who nearly dispatches the whole expedition single-handedly.
Oh, damn. Holy
You play as
shit!
Gustav, one of the survivors, traumatized and alone, walking through countless corpses from other expeditions and his own. He's about to shoot himself when he's found by Lune, another member of the expedition.
You do that, we both die.
She's not blind to reality. They're probably both going to die, but expedition members swear an oath.
When one falls, we continue.
As long as one of them stands, their fight isn't over. Lune and Gustav clearly care about one another, but they don't always get along. When they find an unsigned message indicating another member of Expedition 33, Maëlle, might still be alive, Gustav wants to drop everything and try to save her, and then get out of Dodge. Lune is worried that the whole thing is a trap. Expedition members are always supposed to sign their messages.
We have to go.
No. Not yet.
At one point, later on, Lune asks Gustav if he's a coward because he just wants to get Maëlle and get out. He's not. He's just dealing with watching almost everyone he knows die. And Lune, she's the one that said they should land on that beach in the first place. Neither one of them has it easy. These characters are adults, and they're written like it.
Come on, we always said the future of Lumiere is more important than
Any individual life, yes.
Do you still believe that?
They don't always agree. They're dealing with guilt and loss and trauma, and they're not always kind to one another in the heat of the moment. But they care about each other, and at the end of that exchange, once they've calmed down, they share a laugh.
The mission. Really?
Compelling characters are complex and flawed, and Expedition 33 seems to understand that.
Sorry.
Even if they weren't, Expedition 33 could probably skate by on the world. My demo was...
So right there, I wanted to kind of take a moment to think about it, but right there is what I was talking about earlier about writing. And what we saw there, what did come off like a natural conversation. And that's the thing about writing, is that the you have to make it feel natural. And right there, even with that short bit that we were watching, I found myself sucked in, listening to their exchange, and found myself, like I said, as if you're there watching the conversation take place, sucking in the reader, the audience, by making the conversation feel as natural as possible. And that's what they did in that moment right there.
Was fairly linear. There were branching paths with hidden grapple points, platforming, goodies, and secrets to find, and tough optional bosses to take on, but this isn't an open world game, and it's better for it. Expedition 33 reminds me of Final Fantasy X. These environments may be linear, but they're gorgeous, whether you're standing atop a hill looking at the indigo tree, or both underwater and somehow not. Expedition 33 is a visual feast, and I stopped in every environment I entered to marvel at the beauty and composition on display. There's even a world map to traverse to get from place to place, like the RPGs of old.
This'll be useful.
What really hooked me, however, was the combat. Clair Obscur may be turn-based, but it's not a DVD menu. There's a lot of depth here. Every character has a melee and ranged attack, the latter of which must be aimed manually. Melee attacks build AP, and ranged attacks spend it. You'll also need AP for skills, unique attacks that each character has in their arsenal. And on top of that, each character has a particular attribute. Gustav can use certain skills to build up stacks of overcharge, which he can spend to cash out for a devastating attack. Lune's spells grant elemental stains that can supercharge her other spells for additional effects and damage.
Okay, cool.
My favorite, Mael, you do rescue her. This isn't a spoiler, she's in Clair Obscur's trailers. Can switch between 3 different stances, offering buffs to attack, AP generation, and defense. Managing your AP, setting up a big combo, and planning ahead matters. Like FF10, the turn order is displayed on the left side of the screen, so you can plan every turn in advance, but strategy is only half the battle. The other half is moment-to-moment execution. You don't just choose an option and wait for a canned animation to play out. When an enemy attacks you, you can dodge, parry, or jump to avoid it. Dodging
that way,
avoids
they're making it
attacks,
feel
while
more
parrying nets
interactive.
you a
Very good, very good.
huge counterattack and awards AP, but has a tighter window. Sometimes the only way out is to jump over something. Sure, you can engage in the time-honored tradition of blocking with your face, but the harder fights are going to force you to engage with these defensive mechanics.
That's what
they
should do.
If you parry an attack that hits your whole squad, all of them strike back in a beautifully choreographed counterattack that never gets old. Early on, I ran into a very powerful enemy who could kill my characters in a single hit, but the thing was, he had to hit me. If I could parry him, I could win. It took me a couple tries on my first run. He had a tricky attack that forced me to parry or dodge twice in a row, but once I figured out I could parry the first hit and dodge the second, I managed to take him down.
And that's where skill comes in. Very good, very good.
Then there's the back-end stuff.
And that is awesome, because I see a lot of shit, and as you guys who have been watching me for a while now, a lot of that stuff is very reminiscent to how turn-based RPGs play nowadays. For example, Honkai Star Rail, you have the action board, you have the whole system of either building up your points or spending your points. And very reminiscent of games like Honkai Star Rail, and then an older game that I enjoyed back in the day that was the first game I saw incorporate this system was Bravely Defaults. That's why the Honkai Star Rail system, when I finally played Honkai Star Rail, was very easy for me to pick up on. But the thing is that this is basically taking games like Honkai Star Rail and taking it to the next level by adding in stuff like dodging and parrying to make the game feel more interactive and add more skill to the game. Very good.
Stuff called Pictos and Luminas. You can equip up to 3 Pictos to any character, which provides buffs like shooting this enemy might light them on fire, or attacks do more damage, or killing an enemy grants more AP, as well as stat upgrades. Win enough battles with a Picto equipped, and you can have everyone else equip its effects, minus the stat bonuses. And this is where you can do some really degenerate stuff. Sure, Mael has a skill that puts her in Virtuo's stance, where she does 200% damage if she uses it while an enemy is burning. Normally, you'd have to have somebody use another skill to set this up, but what if you gave Gustav and Lune a Lumina that means their ranged attacks are likely to set enemies on fire?
Then there you go. You have your opening.
Or maybe you equip a Picto that cranks up your base attack damage, or that awards more AP for nailing a parry, allowing you to stay on the offensive longer than you'd normally be able to. Then you're cooking with gas.
You're cooking.
Combine all of that and battles offer a lot of interesting choices. If someone's low on health, do you spend an item or AP to bring them back up, or do you bet it all on dodging or parrying the next attack? How do you level up your characters? Who gets what skill as a Picto so they can stack the right stats and they don't have to spend Lumina points to get that effect? And on it goes. And through it all, Expedition 33 is constantly finding new ways to make itself interesting. What's a Gestrel, and why is Lune obsessed with them? Who is the Paintress, and what does she want? Why is the world the way that it is? Are all these beings actually hostile? Some of them seem pretty friendly, and you have the option to fight them or leave them alone. What's the deal with that old man? How does any of this stuff work? In my demo, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 didn't stop to explain itself, and I appreciated that. It trusted me to figure things out, and I was more invested in what was going on as a result. Most importantly, I could never predict what would happen next. By the time "Thank you for playing" came up on my screen at the end of my demo, I was thoroughly hooked.
And that's good.
On my second run
guessing.
through, I found even more hidden areas, and laid the smackdown on one of the optional fights that had flummoxed me the first time around. When my time with Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was up, I wasn't ready to stop. I wanted to fight more battles, learn more about the world, and spend more time with these characters. Sandfall Interactive is a new studio, but you'd never know this was their first game from playing it.
And that's
Surprise,
crazy.
Conviction, curiosity. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 nails all three. It had my interest before I played it. Now it has my undivided attention. If Sandfall can stick the landing, they'll have put together something remarkable. For more, check out our recent previews of Jump Ship and Neighbors, Suburban War.
And I am definitely excited to try this game. I'm definitely excited to jump into this world because the story is very interesting. The whole idea of taking this concept that at first does sound strange, a paintress on an island a little off the coast of where the main land is, I'm assuming, paints a number, boom, anyone that's of that age dies. Besides the fact that the gameplay for the game looks really fucking good, the story in and of itself also looks so good that I don't care if, like I said, the concept of the story kind of leans on the notion of being a little silly because it looks interesting. It looks like it's written interesting. The gameplay looks good. It's taking turn-based RPGs and adding an element that keeps the turn-based RPG interactive and adds more skill to the game. It looks really good, and like I said, I'm definitely going to be playing this on stream. I'm definitely going to be making content for this game because it looks like something that I will definitely be interested in trying out, playing, and sharing that experience with you guys.